Hello, good morning and welcome to the Sunday Supplement. Fergie says it's the biggest Manchester derby of all, but could it be the biggest match in Premier League history? Will Chelsea get Pep Guardiola? And will Harry Redknapp miss out on the England job? Not missing out this morning, our three chief sports writers, Martin Samuel of the Daily Mail, Paul Hayward of the Daily Telegraph, and the Daily Mirror's Oliver Holt is here. And that match, the biggest match of all, it dominates the back pages. Sunday Express lose and we lose the title. That's the ultimatum from Sir Alex Ferguson to his players. Don't beat Manchester City tomorrow and you won't win the title. Sunday Telegraph, Mancini, one chance to make history. That's his motivation for the players. A lot coming up on the Manchester derby. Great week for Chelsea, wasn't it? Controversial week for Chelsea. Sunday Mirror going with a Chelsea story. Lamps, I'm staying. He's been indicating, but has come out and said that he wants to sign a new contract and emulate Paul Scholes and Ryan Giggs, obviously, at Manchester United. This is the Daily Star on Sunday. Chelsea think that a lot of players already for next season. Who will be the manager? We'll be debating that. 32 million they're bidding for two Everton players, Fellaini and also Ross Barkley, the young midfield player, with a view to loaning him back to Everton if they can get him. We'll have a look at Chelsea, as I say. Interesting little twist on the England story here. This is the People, Steve Bates and Dave Kidd, Harry Redknapp. He thinks that the time is passing by for him to get the England job. No contact yet. Quite a controversial week with England. We'll have a look at that as well. This is Wigan celebrating a fantastic 4-0 victory over Newcastle. Their great escape is on once more. Southampton celebrating. They're back in the Premier League after 7 years. Great scenes for them after their victory yesterday. And it's the FA Cup final next Saturday, Chelsea against Liverpool. And Luis Suarez warmed up with a hat-trick at Norwich, including a great third goal, just like Beckham from the halfway line. Is it the goal of the season? We may just have time to look at that as well. But there's only one place to start, Martin. Manchester derby. Fergie says it's the biggest derby in his career. But is it the biggest game in Premier League history? 20 years of that, of course.
No, I think it's the biggest game since the last one. There's always some huge match at some stage in the season. I can remember Arsenal going to Manchester United with half a team and things like that, which were massive games. The games between United and Arsenal when they were head to head were fantastic. Chelsea and Manchester United as well. I mean, it's massive because it's a derby. That's,
and the title's on it.
And the title's on it. But these come along, or often. I mean, that's the incredible thing with football. Every single season, you go, oh well, there'll never be another season like this, and then the following year, it's all the same sort of stuff. So, it's a huge game, and I'm looking forward to it greatly. But I know Gary Neville thinks it's the biggest.
Well, Gary Neville in the Mail on Sunday is saying it's the biggest game in the Premier League history. This derby could impact on the club's next 3 years. As big as that, Ollie, do you think?
I think so. I mean, I know exactly what Martin's saying, and I agree with him. We always live in the moment, and the next game will.
But this is the moment.
Well, it is the moment, but no, it is the moment. But what I'm saying is, if say, I don't know, if tomorrow, if it's a draw, then Newcastle Man City will become the biggest game in Premier League history, and so I know exactly what Martin's saying. However, I do think that it probably is the. I mean, look, if Ferguson says it's the biggest derby in 25 years, it probably is. I mean, you'd probably go back to think maybe of the famous Dennis Law game when Manchester United went down. At the last time a Manchester derby was this important. And I think what Gary Neville says there about the fact that if City win, I think what makes this one so big and why so many people are saying it is the biggest game in Premier League history is because if City win, you can see it ushering in a period, quite a long period of domination. Yeah. Mentally, psychologically, it's a massive game for Manchester City. If they win it, it clears the way for them. We know they've got the resources to build and build and build and to sort of achieve a hegemony here that will keep them, that might, keep them at the top of the English game for 10 years. I think that's why it's such a massive game. There's a feeling that Manchester United are trying to sort of shore up a dam here, and once the dam bursts, City are going to be through.
Yep. There's definitely a unique flavour to this game because if you think about what United have done over the last 20 years, they had to deal with Liverpool, then they had to deal with Arsenal, and then they had to deal with Roman Abramovich's millions at Chelsea. Now they're having to deal with Manchester City. The difference is that Manchester City are just across town, they're up the road. And, you know, they've had their foot on the head of City for so long, United, and City have been the sort of, you know, Atletico Madrid or Espanyol of Manchester. Suddenly you've got these two financial giants going head-to-head in the city. Manchester's the #1 football city in the country now, the table says. You know, and this game is going to decide which of them is on the up and which of them is going to play second fiddle. So I think this is the biggest game I can remember in the Premier League, and I think it's just got this unique local flavour.
Yeah, you might say maybe I think a similar kind of feel of a new era being ushered in was when was it United Sheffield Wednesday, the sort of the famous Brian Kidd Fergie celebration, where that was the sort of the gateway to United's first title. Equally, I think if City were to win this, that there could be a similar feel about that.
And yeah, against that, and I don't want to appear as if I'm sort of curmudgeonly about this, because I'm really looking forward to this game, and it is a fantastic game. But in 2006, Chelsea beat Manchester United 3-0 to win their second consecutive title, and everyone who was there looked at this and went, "Well, this is English football for the next 10 years. This is Chelsea will now dominate English football." They absolutely mashed United that day. I mean, it was 3-0 and it could have been more. Wayne Rooney got injured. It was the World Cup, the 2006 World Cup injury, and you looked at that and thought, well, this is it. And the following year, Chelsea didn't win the title, and within a month after the season after that, Mourinho had been sacked and Avon Grant was the manager. And that's all I mean, is that football has got this incredible way that just when you think, oh, this means this, it sort of it does 180 on you, and it turns out not to mean it at all. So that's my only point, really.
Just the last word, and we will come back to the Manchester derby, of course. The last word at the moment on this. Did you agree with Fergie that if City win, they'll win the title?
I do, yeah, partly because of the goal difference thing. I think this is the deciding game, quite honestly. And I think, the people, Manchester United are desperate not to stop City winning this title race. And conversely, if they do win it, if United win it, it'll be seen as a massive triumph, given that United are in transition and City have spent so much money.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. Like Martin, I think we're all looking forward to it. Fergie calls it the biggest Manchester derby of all. Gary Neville says it's possibly the biggest Premier League match in the history of the competition. So what's the key to it, do we think, Martin, that there's so much at stake? Fergie says that if City win, they'll win the title. How does City win? What's that?
I think the key to it is Roberto Mancini's attitude to it, because in other games, massive matches for Manchester City, against Tottenham 2 years ago, when basically it was winner takes all for the last Champions League place, and then a game of earlier this month away to Arsenal, which really was another win or bust game for City. And on both occasions there, they've been quite cautious. They've been, they haven't really gone for it. And I think tomorrow is all about whether City go out there with the knowledge that, right, we win this, we win the league. We have got to risk, even if we get beat, even if that's, we have got to gamble in some way, because Manchester United won't gamble. I'm not about to say that Manchester United would, but they only need a draw. If the situations were reversed, Manchester United would gamble. That has always been their way. That has always been Ferguson's way. That if he needs to win a match, he is very brave about it. And I think that's what City have got to be.
Do you think Mancini will? Do you think he'll go for it?
That's interesting. One chance to make history, because there was an interview he gave in France Football last week in which he talked about, we'll definitely win it next season, which you look at and think, well, why not win it this season? So that's interesting, one chance to make history. If that is his mindset at the moment, and then they go for it, I think City will win. But they've got to be prepared to risk. At some stage, you've got to be prepared to risk if you're going to win a title. No one wins it cautious.
His team will be interesting. I mean, Tevez has come back, and the increase in their form since he returned has been significant. Yeah. Balotelli's back from suspension. Would you get Balotelli involved in this game or not?
Not at all, no. No, I mean, as soon as Tevez got off that plane, I felt he was going to be a big influence on this title race, particularly in concert with Aguero, you know, that's a really high-class front too, and that's why they brought him back, because they were struggling and they needed an extra man, and they brought back a world-class striker for nothing, City. So Tevez, for me, it's Tevez and Aguero every time. If you're talking about the front two, the main two strikers in that side, Balotelli is a liability anyway in a game like that. I wouldn't risk it.
No, with the pressure,
well,
and the build-up.
Not just his temperament, but you know, you're going to have to work in that game. You're really going to have to work to get anything out of it. And if Balotelli's looking at his feet and, you know, and sulking if things aren't going quite
holding
right.
up his shirt and everything.
And yet he was brilliant in the Old Trafford game.
Well, he was.
6-1. He
was
brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, he's capable of being brilliant, but you don't know, so why gamble?
And I think we've got to a point with him where you just cannot afford this
I
game. You cannot afford for him to have one of those days where he's looking at his shoes and he gets sent off after 35 minutes.
Yeah. Do you think Mancini will go for it or not?
Well, I'm not sure. As Martin says, history says not, really. And so maybe he will have learnt from his past. I'm not sure. Look, I think City have got better players individually. United are a better team. And I think until City can leap that hurdle, they're not going to win it. I admire them immensely, the way they've come back at United when it looked like they'd blown it. I just think, I still stick to the thing that I think when they lost at Arsenal, that game that Martin mentioned, I think that was just too far. It's too far for them to get back. And I think a draw tomorrow night.
I mean, the difference between City at the moment than they produce at the Emirates is significant.
It is significant.
They're a different team. Who do you think deserves to win the title over the course of the season?
Whoever's top of the table at the end of it. I don't think, I don't think City or United deserve it anymore. Whoever ends up on the most points. I think they've both got incredible things to recommend them this season. I think it's been a terrific season for Manchester football. I think City deserve a lot of credit for coming so close. You know, they're trying to break through this barrier of 44 years without a title. They're very, very close. But United, with a team that is probably not as good as some of their teams of the past, Ferguson again has done an unbelievable job to get them this close. So I think they both teams deserve immense credit. Yeah,
I think I agree. Whoever's on top will deserve it. I think they'd both be very worthy Premier League winners. City played wonderful football for the first half of the season. They really brought the whole league to life. And United came back into it through, knowledge and resilience and a lot of individual talent as well. So it's been a great contest, actually. And in a way, I think United will hope that Mancini stays in charge next season, because, if he does, there are more likely to be issues in the City dressing room with rifts and problems and egos getting out of control. Because if there's one, if there's one failing, I think on Mancini's side, it's perhaps the man management. And United will want that to continue. If they bring in another manager next year, Guardiola, say, that's going to up the ante again.
It's interesting. I think that we've talked a lot about Tevez, and a lot of people have homed in on the sort of destructive effect that he's had. But I think, if anything, if you can point anything at why City haven't got over the line yet, it's maybe an overindulgence of Balotelli. I think Balotelli's been more of a problem. Martin said, he's a fantastic player.
Yeah,
he's capable of great things.
I mean, I don't disagree. I mean, that's the irony with Mancini is that, as much as at key moments he's accused of conservatism, in terms of the players that he's bought, he's taken more chances than just about any manager that I can remember. He's assembled a squad of these huge egos and guys that are really, really difficult to control, like Balotelli, who can be a brilliant player. But I do agree with Ollie and Paul. At the moment, right at this very moment, you can't risk a guy that could get himself sent off 5 minutes before half-time, and now you're going to play Manchester United with 10 men needing to win the game.
It's curious that he, Mancini, I've got a lot of respect for him. I think he's done brilliantly at City, but it's curious that both with Tevez and Balotelli, he went back on his original position, which was that this guy is finished here, particularly Tevez. I understand why he did it, but then he did it with Balotelli again. He said, right, that's it, I've had enough. And then a few days later he says, he can still play for this club, he's still got a future, he's very talented, we all make mistakes. So he does seem to oscillate between these positions, and I wonder whether the other players hear that and say, well, actually, he's not quite
I'm running out of time. A prediction tomorrow?
I think City will score first and United will equalise, and it will keep going to the end of the season.
So it'll be a draw?
Yeah.
You're doing a draw, aren't you, as well?
1-1, yeah.
I don't think United will lose.
I was just about to say that. So in the end, folks, you've wasted an hour of your life, and we all concluded it's a draw.
OK. Don't forget, if you missed any of today's show, you can